Composition rules. Should we follow rules or should we instead use composition techniques in our photos? Let me explain. Hi, my name is Luis, and I'm an amateur photographer like most of you, and I live in Portugal. Let's start with the 10 main rules or composition techniques that will help you improve your photography. And if you stay till the end, I'll also show you some extra techniques that are very interesting and effective. So stay tuned. Number 1, rule of thirds. The rule of thirds divides the image into a 3x3 grid. This serves as the template for placing points of interest. When using the rule of thirds, you should place the main subject on one of the intersection points, or as close to one as possible, while trying to position another element in one of the other points, preferably on the opposite side, to create a sense of balance and visual interest. Beginner photographers often place the main subject in one intersection point, but leave the rest of the frame empty, making the image feel heavier on one side and less visually appealing. These grid lines are also used to place the horizon, if you have one in your image. Place it on the bottom third if the most interesting part is the top of the image, or place it on the top third if the interest is the bottom of the image. Number 2, leading lines. With the leading lines, you can use natural or artificial lines, like roads, fences, or rivers, to lead the viewer's eye toward the main subject or deeper into the image. This is a simple and fairly easy technique to use, as long as your scene includes elements that can guide the viewer's eye toward the subject. Remember that leading lines should always guide the eye into the frame, not out of it. Roads and pathways are the most obvious examples, but you can find leading lines in almost any environment. The important thing is that they lead the viewers to the main point of interest and keep their attention within your image. Number 3, framing. Frame your subject using elements from the scene itself, like windows, doors, or branches, to draw attention and add depth. This simple yet effective technique involves finding a natural frame within your scene to surround your subject. Windows, doors, or corridors are obvious choices, but you can also use other elements if they serve the same purpose. These framing elements don't even need to be in focus. In fact, they often shouldn't be in focus, since their purpose is to lead attention toward the subject, not to themselves. Number 4, patterns. Capture scenes with repeating patterns to create a sense of harmony and aesthetic appeal. A pattern is a regular repetition of shapes, colors, lines, or textures. You can find patterns in nature or in urban environments. They are naturally pleasing to the eye because they create rhythm, order, and visual coherence. However, if you introduce one element that breaks the pattern, you can create a much more dynamic and interesting image. Number 5, depth of field. Using layers like foreground, middle ground, and background. Include elements at different distances from your camera to create a sense of three-dimensionality. This technique adds depth and a 3D feeling to your photos. Be careful not to include too many elements. Keep only those that contribute to the context and story you want to tell. It's a technique often used in street photography, and when done well, it results in a rich image that holds the viewer's attention longer as they explore each layer. Number 6, balance. Place another, less important object on the opposite side of the main subject to balance the composition and avoid empty space. The goal of this technique is to fill the frame with secondary elements that complement the main subject without stealing attention from it. Think of them as background actors. They should contribute to the story, but not dominate it. This creates a visually balanced image that feels calm and harmonious. Number 7, golden ratio, or Fibonacci spiral. Similar to the rule of thirds, but based on mathematical golden ratio. Place the main elements along the spiral for a more natural flow. This is perhaps the most challenging and least used technique. It consists on positioning several points of interest along the spiral. It's a technique used by classic painters, and in photography, It gives the image a more artistic and classical feel. Number 8. Fill the frame. Get closer to your subject or use zoom to eliminate distractions and emphasize details or emotions. Unlike the previous technique, this one is probably the easiest one to apply, unless you're trying to shoot a close-up of the moon without a telephoto lens. Simply fill the frame with your subject. This directs all attention to it, highlighting its most interesting details. You can achieve this by physically getting closer or by using a zoom or telephoto lens. Number 9. Negative space. Use empty space around your subject to create simplicity, emphasize the main theme, and convey emotion. The opposite of balance or filling the frame. This technique is used often in minimalist photography. It involves isolating your subject and leaving plenty of empty space around it. The result is usually a simple, elegant image that highlights the subject but can also evoke feelings of solitude or isolation. When used well, it gives your image an artistic and emotional tone. And number 10, viewpoint or perspective. Experiment with different angles. Shoot from above, below, from the side to add creativity and change the viewer's perception of the subject. This technique may seem easy, but it needs to be thought through carefully. For example, shooting someone from above makes them appear smaller or more vulnerable, while shooting from below gives them a more dominant, powerful look. Shooting at eye level, on the other hand, creates a sense of equality between the subject and the viewer. A close-up of a face can either invoke intimacy or complicity if you know the subject, or a sense of claustrophobia and awkwardness if the subject is a stranger. Extra technique number 1, contrast. This technique is widely used in black and white street photography. It involves exaggerating the contrast between light and shadow to create shapes, lines, negative space, and strong tonal areas where the subject should be placed. It's highly effective, but it requires some technical control to achieve the correct exposure and clear subject definition. It can also be applied to color photography. Contrasting colors can produce powerful and visually appealing results. Extra technique number 2, rule of odds. Simple and effective, this technique or rule creates a greater sense of balance in the image. When there's an even number of elements, the brain tends to divide the scene in half, making it static or predictable. With an odd number, there's always a central element surrounded by others, creating dynamic imbalance, something more natural and interesting to the observer. Extra technique number 3, reflections. There's nothing like a beautiful reflection on a lake to turn a simple scene into a visual delight. Our brains are naturally drawn to symmetry and order, so this kind of composition is very pleasing. The symmetry of a reflection conveys calm, balance, and stability. Extra technique number 4, central framing. Probably the simplest, most obvious, and most used technique. Centering the subject or point of interest is common, especially in portrait photography. It immediately draws attention to the subject. In environmental portraits or contextual images, surrounding elements should complement the subject in color, texture, and lighting. However, if the background doesn't add value, use a shallower depth of field to blur it and keep the focus on the subject. So, by using any of these techniques, if you can draw attention to that key point in your image, you'll have a very strong and interesting photo. I hope this video was useful to you, and if it was, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Till next time, happy shooting!